Ukrainian attacks on occupied territories are continuing. Explosions and fire are reported in occupied Simferopol, Merino district. Witnesses report loud blasts and massive smoke near the university. Emergency services were on site. An 18-year-old Russian soldier pleads with his compatriots for rescue. Lured by easy money, he signed a contract with Russia's military, only to land on the Orikhiv front in Zaporizhzhia after brief training. 9 days on the front line, and rotations denied.
Please help. I know you can help me. I have already reached out to Astra and other resources. They are not responding. I've been stuck here for 9 days now. The guys get rotated, but they can't rotate me. They can't change me. They've left me here until the 200th, until they release me, only for the 200th. Please help.
Russian Akhmat fighters, after capturing Sudzha, are having fun with locals. It's unclear what they plan for this sick man, but for some reason, they've put him in a wheelbarrow and strapped a rifle to him.
Стрелять будем! Будем!
Russian propagandist Kashevarova is sobbing on her channel because the Chinese won't team up with the oh-so-kind Russians for drones, opting instead for those pesky Ukrainian companies. One of my friends traveled to China to negotiate with factories about supplying components for electronic warfare and drones. He couldn't get anywhere. Everywhere he went, there were yellow and blue flags and signs saying, "Glory to Ukraine." Even though the president said the drone industry could reach 1 trillion rubles, our adversaries are still ahead of us both in quantity and variety. The industry's development pace is still extremely slow. That's because the Russian military leadership subconsciously believes weapons should be expensive, bulky, and take 2 or 3 hours of tedious setup to deploy. If Putin manipulates Trump, he'll regret it, said Senator Lindsey Graham.
President Trump can convince Putin to go to the peace table, to engage in ceasefire, and to find a win-win solution for both countries to stop the killing. You'll never know till you try, and there's one person on the planet capable of doing that, and that is President Trump. If Putin is playing Trump, he will regret it.
In an interview with Le Parisien, French President Emmanuel Macron proposed replacing American-made arms with European alternatives. Those purchasing Patriot systems should be offered the next-generation Franco-Italian SAMP/T. Those buying F-35s should be offered the Rafale fighter aircraft, he stated. On March 14th, President Macron reportedly convened a meeting with representatives of key French arms manufacturers. The meeting included major defense firms such as Safran, Thales, Naval Group, Dassault, and KNDS. Representatives of 4,000 small and medium-sized defense enterprises also attended the meeting. French Industry Minister Marc Ferracci also emphasized the government's reliance on manufacturers to scale up production. Previously, Nuno Melo, Portugal's defense minister, announced that the country was excluding the purchase of F-35 fighter jets, citing concerns over the unpredictability of U.S. policies and the current geopolitical climate. Melo emphasized that although the Portuguese Air Force's F-16 fighter jets were approaching the end of their service life, it was essential to assess options that ensured greater predictability and operational safety. He noted that European-made combat aircraft were considered as an alternative to purchasing F-35s. Meanwhile, it was reported that Canada is reconsidering the purchase of F-35s amid tensions with the United States, even though payment for the first 16 aircraft has already been made. Canada is already actively considering potential alternatives to the American F-35 and plans to hold talks with other aircraft manufacturers. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has announced plans to deploy a peacekeeping contingent of approximately 10,000 troops to Ukraine, according to The Times. Senior government sources confirmed that Starmer had secured the support of a significantly larger coalition than the 3 countries that initially proposed sending ground forces. About 35 countries have agreed to provide weapons and support for the peacekeeping operation in Ukraine. He proposed contingent is expected to be primarily composed of British and French troops. A government source stated that preparations are already in an advanced stage, but declined to disclose specifics due to the risk of sensitive information leaking to Russia. Military officials estimate that the total force could exceed 10,000 troops, with about 35 countries pledging to provide weapons, logistics, and intelligence support for the mission, referred to as a stretching force. The force is intended to serve as a deterrent against future Russian aggression in the event of a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. Following a conference call with 29 world leaders, Starmer confirmed that a meeting of military commanders will be held in London this week as the peacekeeping plans enter the operational phase. At a press conference, Prime Minister Starmer called for immediate global action, emphasizing the need for peace efforts and additional sanctions against Russia. He reported that during a recent conversation between French President Emmanuel Macron and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, new commitments were made on peacekeeping initiatives and sanctions enforcement against Russia. Rejecting Putin's yes-but approach to the ceasefire proposed by Kiev, Starmer stressed that the Russian leader would have to sit down at the negotiating table sooner or later. Sooner or later, Putin will have to come to the table. So this is the moment. Let the guns fall silent. Let the barbaric attacks on Ukraine once and for all stop and agree to a ceasefire now, he stated. In late February, reports indicated that Britain was prepared to send both ground and air components to Ukraine as part of its expanded military commitment. The administration of U.S. President Donald Trump is reportedly considering the partial recognition of Somaliland in exchange for permission to establish a naval base, according to the Financial Times. An American official who told the FT about the new administration's first contacts with the leadership of Somaliland shared that discussions have begun on a possible agreement to recognize the de facto state in exchange for creating a military base near the port of Berbera on the Red Sea coast. According to the official, the Trump administration's African team is still in the early stages of formation, and these very preliminary initial contacts are ongoing. The official also mentioned that the administration has raised the possibility of resettling refugees from both the United States and Gaza. However, this issue is secondary to the broader military discussions. It is important to note that forced deportation of populations, as outlined under Article 7 of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, constitutes a crime against humanity and may lead to international criminal prosecution. Such actions could also be considered genocide. Somaliland, the northern region of Somalia, formed on the territory of the former British Protectorate of British Somaliland, separated from Somalia in 1991. This happened after the fall of the regime of dictator Siad Barre, which plunged the country into civil war. While the rest of the country has fragmented into numerous warring factions engaged in permanent civil war, in Somaliland, which occupies approximately 20% of Somalia's territory and is home to about a third of the population, the situation is relatively peaceful, and the standard of living is much higher. In 2003, a referendum was held in Somaliland, where about 99% of the participants voted for independence and the adoption of the Constitution of Somaliland. In total, Somaliland was recognized as an independent state by 10 countries of the world, including South Africa, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Belgium, Great Britain, France, South Sudan, the UAE, Kenya, and Zambia. According to the outlet, the Somaliland government may be tempted by the prospect of U.S. recognition. But any agreement related to refugees from Gaza could destabilize the state and strengthen the positions of the Islamists. In an interview with Sky News Arabia, Somaliland President Abdirahman Mohamed Abdullahi Iro denied that his government was negotiating with the United States over the resettlement of Palestinians, and instead called for a solution supported by Arab consensus. In February 2025, Trump ordered the U.S. military to launch a series of airstrikes against Islamic State targets in Somalia.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Every day. We had a guy last week, it's 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.